can see you face to face, when sorrow is no more, when pain is no more, when division is no more. We long to be in your presence, where we find hope and joy and love and belonging. But God, we thank you that we can access that right here, right now. Right here in your presence, God. May you use us in our lives here on earth to impact eternity. May you use us to glorify you, to glorify your name in a world who desperately needs you. To you be the honor and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Good morning. So we got some people here in the room, up in the balcony down here. Welcome people online. I don't know if there's anyone in the Foundry, but if you're down there, what up? Okay, so I have recently I've recently started looking for a new car. The car I have been driving is a salvage. I did salvage her. It was my fault, but she has been salvaged for 1.5 years and has still been pushing through. She is awesome. It's been pretty sketch, but she has pushed through and I'm super proud of her. It was just time to look for a new, more reliable car. Something that I could trust to drive in the snow or that I could take to the beach. I was looking for even, because I'm trying to think ahead a little bit, because if I get a new car, I want it to last me for at least 5 years. And y'all can be praying with me for this, because in the next 5 years, I'm kind of hoping there might be a husband and a baby, you know? So I'm trying to find a car that it would be really great, to bring a baby home in. So I'm just, I'm thinking ahead, I'm planning. And I found, because this is the first time that I've gone car shopping, on my own, as an adult, without my parents helping, and I've realized that when you're looking for a car, there's a lot more to it than, oh, that's cute. Does it have all-wheel drive? What's the MPG? How many miles are on it? How much space is in it? Do I really care what the color is? Have the head gaskets been changed? I don't even know what head gaskets are, but apparently I'm supposed to be asking about it. And then I'm also trying to be financially responsible because I want Dave Ramsey to be proud. You know what I'm saying? So these are all the things that are rolling through my head as I'm doing this research, and I've put so many hours into researching cars, and not even the test driving, just the online researching, because I want to be well prepared. Because this is what we do as humans. We like to plan and prepare and get ready for what's coming in the future. In fact, I've heard from some parents of teens who are in the same spot. They're looking for a car because they have a 15-year-old who's going to have their license soon. And so they're trying to find a car that's financially responsible for them, but also they're trying to think of the safety and well-being of their child. Or maybe you are preparing for retirement. Maybe you are preparing for a wedding, and there's a lot that goes into a wedding, or moving, and there's a lot that goes into moving, whether it's across town or across the country. There's a lot of things to consider. Maybe you're even just trying to pack for a camping trip, and so you're making a list of all the things you're gonna need, or the things that you might need, because it's a thing with dudes, I think. When you are going on a camping trip, you pack as if you're headed to the Hunger Games, just in case, So you gotta pack everything. You're getting ready, getting prepared, or maybe there's a baby on the way, and so you gotta, my sister's having a baby, and so there's just a lot to go into bringing a baby home. You gotta get the mom car, you gotta get the stroller, you gotta get the car seat, you gotta get the baby monitors, the diapers, the clothes, all sorts of things to prepare for the arrival of a baby. And we put so much time and energy into planning and preparing and getting ready for a future of a life that's ultimately fleeting. we're only here for a few decades. And I'm not saying that planning and getting ready and preparing, I'm not saying that that's bad. No, it's actually really good, and it's honorable, and it's wise, and it's necessary so that we can steward this life on earth well. But can I ask you a question? How much time and energy have you put into preparing for the return of Christ? That is what we're going to talk about today. Jesus is our bridegroom. He is coming back for us one day. So basically this morning we're going to be talking about weddings and romance and super touchy-feely things. I'm just kidding, dudes. Seriously, stay with me. Don't check out. We're not actually we're talking about us. We are the bride of Christ as the church. This is what we're talking about. We are the bride, and our groom, Jesus, will one day return for us to usher us into eternity. And eternity is not fleeting. So we need to be intentional to ask ourselves, what are we doing to prepare for that day? And what are we doing to prepare the people around us for that day? So, what does it mean that Jesus is the bridegroom? We are going to be primarily in the book of Matthew. We're going to look at chapter 25. Jesus shares a parable, and so that's what we're going to look at. But first, let me give you a little background and context into what weddings looked like back then. So, a wedding, the bride and her bridesmaids, they would spend all day getting ready, much like brides of today do, except back then the bridesmaids were not friends or relatives like we have them. They were actually domestic workers, so they worked for their family. So the whole purpose of their job on this day is to cater to the every need of that bride. The bride would dress in the finest linen and jewelry that her family could afford. Her hair would be done, she'd wear a veil, there would be flowers, and then she would wait. Because the groom would actually come to her. He would come to get her. And so in the waiting, the bridesmaids would actually go out and they would wait for him. They'd wait to hear him coming, and then they would run in to make sure she was ready. And so the groom would come then with a procession of people. They would have torches, and they'd march in. He'd get his bride, and then they would march back through the town to his house for a 5 to 7 day party. So that's how it worked, okay? Are we tracking? Okay, so with that in mind, we're going to take a look at one of these parables. And if you don't know what a parable is, it was explained to me when I was a teenager as an earthly story with a heavenly meaning. So it's a simple, easy to understand story, but it takes us into some spiritual depths. So we are going to look at one of the parables that Jesus shared, because he did this a lot in his teaching and his ministry here on earth. And so we're going to find it in Matthew 25, and we're going to look at verse 1. Then the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 bridesmaids who took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish, and 5 were wise. So here, Jesus is giving us a picture into eternity. Humanity is represented in these 2 categories, and each one of us is going to be categorized as either wise or foolish. So let's keep reading. The 5 who were foolish didn't take enough olive oil for their lamps, but the other 5 were wise enough to take along extra oil. When the bridegroom was delayed, they all became drowsy and fell asleep. Okay, we're going to stop right here. So the bride is ready and waiting and expecting. And so the bridesmaids head out to meet the bridegroom. And here's what we know so far. We know that 5 came prepared and 5 did not. So when the bridegroom came later than expected, a problem was about to arise for the 5 who were unprepared. But let's just take a quick moment to acknowledge the fact that they fell asleep. So I don't know if you remember the story of Jesus and his 3 disciples in the garden. It actually takes place a little bit after Jesus shares this parable, because he's at this point, he knows his time is coming, and like the cross part of the story is about to happen, and so he's feeling a lot of sorrow and anguish. And so he models for us the most perfect response to heaviness by saying, all right, I gotta go pray. So he brings 3 of his disciples, his buddies with him, Peter, James, and John, and they go to the garden, and he's like, you guys are my brothers, you're my friends, I need you to pray with me. And then in Matthew 26:40 through 41, Jesus comes back to find them sleeping and scolds them, saying, "Couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour?" He asked Peter. "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." Jesus ends up having to do this a second time as well. The disciples fall asleep 3 times in this short time span of needing to stay awake, to keep watch, to pray with Jesus. Same kind of thing is happening here in the story with the bridesmaids. They were to keep watch for the bridegroom to come, but they fell asleep. So let's continue on. At midnight, they were roused by the shout, "Look, the bridegroom is coming. Come out and meet him." All the bridesmaids got up and prepared their lamps. Then the 5 foolish ones asked the others, "Please give us some of your oil because our lamps are going out." But the others replied, "We don't have enough for all of us. Go to a shop and buy some yourselves." It seems a little harsh. I'm going to light my little lamp. Oh. Maybe I'm not. I don't know where. There it is. The wick. It seems a little harsh, but the reality is, as children of light, we are responsible on our own to light our own flame, to light our own faith, to set it ablaze. It is not the responsibility. Oh my goodness. There we go. It is not the responsibility of other people to light that flame for us. That is on us. We can't rely on the faith of our parents or our spouses or our friends or our kids or our pastors. We can't expect everyone to spoon feed our faith, to have enough faith to cover us. That's not how this works. We have to take ownership. Your faith is your responsibility to pursue, strengthen, and to live out. Because as we're about to find out, there's also a problem with trying to scramble in the last moment to find it. In verse 10 through 13, "But while they were gone to buy oil, the bridegroom came. Then those who were ready went in with him to the marriage feast, and the door was locked. Later, when the 5 bridesmaids returned, they stood outside calling, 'Lord, Lord, open the door for us.' But he called back, 'Believe me, I don't know you. So you too must keep watch, for you do not know the day or hour of my return.'" Here again, Jesus is urging his people to keep watch. Is this smoking an abnormal amount? I don't want to like set anything on fire. Sorry. So he's urging his people to keep watch, to be prepared, because we don't know the day or the hour of his return. But we do know that he is coming. In the chapter before this, in Matthew 24, Jesus shares another one of his iconic parables. And in verse 36, he says, But about that day or hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father." Then he goes on to talk about Noah. So you guys remember Noah and the ark? Yeah? So the world was kind of going crazy at this point. And so what Jesus says in this parable, he talks about Noah and how all the other people were eating and drinking and just enjoying their misguided lives. And then boom, they're literally wiped out. Like, whoosh, done. Only Noah and his family were ready, because they were aware, they were awake, they pressed in, they took ownership of their faith, and they responded with obedience. And then I love what Jesus says in the following verses. "Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come, but understand this. If the owner of the house had known at what time of night the thief was coming, he would have kept watch and would not have let his house be broken into. So you also must be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect him." If we knew someone was going to break into our house and steal all... Put the glass down. Oh. Okay. Guys, maybe props aren't my thing. Hopefully we're good now. Okay. Okay. So if we knew someone was going to break into our house and steal all of our things at a specific time, we would be ready and prepared and probably armed because let's be real, this is Oregon, right? Like we would be ready for that to happen. But we don't actually know when Jesus is coming. We just know that he is. And so we have to keep watch and we have to be prepared at all times. We do know that people are going to miss out on an eternity in heaven if they aren't prepared. But notice in all these examples who Jesus is referring to. He's talking to people who actually know to look for him. Like they know they're supposed to look for him, but they've gotten lazy or they've checked out or they've fallen asleep. So what Jesus is trying to awaken his people to is not just for those who haven't come into awareness of who he is yet, but even for those who do know and are simply just not preparing for him. The question is, are we going to be ready? I don't know about you, but I don't want to be like the 5 foolish bridesmaids. I cannot imagine standing at heaven's doorsteps begging to be let in, or looking Jesus in the eyes and having him say to me, I don't know you. But this is the reality. We have plenty of warning. The Bible gives us an extraordinary amount of help and instruction so we know how to prepare for this day. The Holy Spirit is available to us, guiding us and leading us into a deeper wisdom and revelation and holiness. And Jesus came. He already came and he died and he paid this huge price to save us and restore us so that we could live in a new life in him right now. As Jenna said a couple weeks ago, as Omega people. But ultimately, he's coming back for the final Omega. Eternity can feel like this far off, distant universe thing, but it's actually a really prominent reality. A reality that is so real right now. It's even closer maybe than we even expect. It's a reality that matters more than anything else in this life. And yet, are we actually intentionally preparing for it? Okay. Who knows the game hide and seek? Anybody? I mean, I think we do. It's a timeless game. I actually got to play it this week when I was babysitting, and it was epic. I love that game, although there's nothing like being the hider to make you realize how badly you have to go to the bathroom. Am I right? Like you're hiding and you're waiting and you're like, oh no. Like that's just a reality of hide and seek. But after you're done counting, what is it that everybody says? What do we say? Yeah, ready or not, here I come. And I love that we all tend to have that little sing-songy tune to it. Like you can't just say, ready or not, here I come. It's ready or not, here I come. Well, this is what I feel like Jesus is saying to us. Ready or not, I am coming. Ready or not, I am coming. His coming is not contingent on our readiness. He is going to come whether we are ready or not, but I prefer that we be ready. Even in the game, you may know that the person is counting to 30, you have till 30 to hide or whatever, and then they're going to go. We don't actually know when Jesus is going to come, which means we have to be ready and prepared at all times. The disciples in the garden, they were not ready. They missed the weight of what was happening. They succumbed to their weakness and they became susceptible to the enemy. Within 24 hours, the greatest moment in human history occurred, and in so many ways, they missed it because they fell asleep, because they didn't keep watch. Well, now we await part 2. And Jesus is telling us, be alert, keep watch, wake up, be prepared, be discerning. Drop the good news of Jesus like confetti all over the place. Because he is coming. The groom will come to be with his bride, but is his bride ready? Is the church being the church? Do our neighbors, our coworkers, our friends, our families, do they know Jesus? Do they even know that you know Jesus? We are living in absolute chaos right now. There is literally no denying it. And I know I'm not the only one that's wondering if this is it. Like, is this the end? Because we've got disease, we've got violence, we've got division, we've got diseased monkeys in Florida. I'm serious, Google it. I'm serious, Google it later. It's true, there are diseased monkeys in Florida. There's all sorts of crazy things happening that makes me think, is this it? I will sometimes go outside, just like on a nice day, but if I feel the most subtle gust of wind, I'm like, Jesus, is that you? Are you coming? Because honestly, it could happen at any moment. And how cool would it be to be standing outside and seeing his feet dangle down? You know, I just want to see it. But regardless of the exact time or day of Jesus' return, we are still getting closer and closer to that moment. Your neighbor or coworker or friend is getting closer and closer to facing their reality of eternity. You and I are getting closer and closer to facing the reality of an eternity that is not fleeting. So are we going to fall asleep, church? Or are we going to be ready? If you've had a serious conversation with me any time in the last year, you've likely heard me talk about revival. Because not only are we in desperate need of it, I see it stirring all around me and it pumps me up like it is coming. And I remember in January in 21 Days of Prayer, one of the teachers was talking about revival. And he said that it was going to start with our young people. He said, the wave always starts in the student section. So like, you know, when you're at a football game and the crowd erupts in a wave, woo, it almost always starts in that student section, and then it ripples throughout the entire stadium. And I believe that revival is the same. It gives me goosebumps because God has made it clear from the beginning of my call to ministry that I was passionate about empowering the next generation. And when I say passionate, I mean like tears in my eyes, escalated voice, fired up, pumped up, armored up, ready to fight for them. Because you know what? Do you know what I don't want? I don't want to be standing there at the end in eternity when Jesus is returned and I'm all prepared. I'm ready to go with my lantern. But you know what? I don't want to stand there and look at the young person next to me and say, sorry, you should have got your own. I want to be a part of equipping them right now to be children of light, to be a generation that shines brighter than this world has ever seen amidst a darkness that is literally consuming our planet. And if we don't step up, we are going to lose this generation. Lose them to screens, to their video games or TV or social media. We're going to lose them to identity confusion. We're going to lose them to lies of the enemy, to misinformed cultural truths. We're going to lose them to addictions or to mental health. But if we do, if we step up, we will gain this generation and the generations to come. This is something that I've said to a few of the teens before. I've said, I really want God to use me to make heaven a whole lot more crowded. And I've asked them if they want to be used by God to make heaven more crowded too. And now I want to ask you, when Jesus returns, not only will you be prepared, but do you want to just be standing there with just your lantern? Or do you want to welcome Jesus with an army of light? Do you want to storm the gates of heaven with entire generations beside, behind, and in front of you? The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Jesus coming in clutch once again in John 1:5. I don't know, but if the enemy thrives in darkness, don't we want to try to blind him with the light? Which, by the way, darkness technically isn't even a thing. It only exists in the absence of light. So we need to be a people who makes it so that light is never absent. No matter where we go or who we are with, we are bringing light with us so that darkness can be no more. I want you to take a look at this picture because this is what I imagine it will look like when Jesus returns. I've always imagined it like this bright light, and he's just going to drop out of there. But wouldn't it be cool is if instead of this being what we see when Jesus comes, what if this is what he sees when he comes? What if he looks at us when he returns and it is a blinding bright light coming from his sons and daughters because we are ready and we are prepared and we are excitedly waiting for him in his return. And we've got our lanterns ready to go. And it just produces this massive blinding light. Revival. It requires action. It's not just this nice idea, oh yeah, revival would be cool. No, it is a movement of God that ravishes the hearts and souls of his children. But his children have to be ready and willing to press in. To do the work, to stay alert, to wake up, to fight against the enemy and his darkness, to talk to Lindsay about serving in youth ministry, to light it up anywhere and everywhere with anyone, to seek Jesus, to know Jesus, and to make Jesus known. I want you to understand this, though. You don't have to be perfect to come prepared. God just wants you. Ready or not, God is ready to receive you. All of you, awake and aware, joining in with what he is doing here on this earth. So if you are sitting here this morning saying, yes, I want to make heaven a whole lot more crowded. I want to be used to prepare the church, the bride, for Christ's return. Then I want you to hold your hands to heaven, because I'm going to read Revelation 19:7 and pray over you. So hold your hands to heaven. Let us rejoice and be glad and give him glory. For the wedding of the Lamb has come, and his bride has made herself ready. God, we, your church, your bride, we want to be ready. We are ready for you to come. For you to come right now and do what you want to do. We want to be used, God, to make heaven a whole lot more crowded. We want to be used in the midst of this division to be people of peace. In the midst of hate to be people of love. We want to be used as people who will draw others into you. God, use us. We are ready. We are ready to impact eternity. All the glory be to you, God. Use us, your church. We are ready, we are prepared, and we just thank you. We love you. Amen.